Hello everyone. More nightmares. Yes. Part 1 for KuguInuShiba because somehow it got super long again. I don't know how. I'm trying to make it one part always, but yeah. Somehow it looks to be two parts for now, but what do I know? As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch these videos. You are keeping this channel alive and going. Thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy. As much as Inoka loved having both of his boyfriends close at all times, he had to admit that Shibama's occasional training and team building camps had one undeniable advantage. He could have Kugure all to himself all day and night for the next 3 days, and no one but Kugure could stop him from getting his dose of cuddles and kisses. Was he being a bit selfish? Perhaps. But who could blame him? This was Kugure they were talking about. And besides, he had no illusions about what Shibayama thought when he was home alone with Kugure. Now it just happened to be his turn. Are you planning something for tomorrow? Kugure glanced up from the screen of his laptop, tilting his head a bit like a curious kitten. Inoka would gladly tell him to slow down with working so much over evenings, but since it was his fault he didn't get anything done throughout the day, he supposed he had no right to interfere now. Hence the question aimed for tomorrow. I'm not sure. Why? I was thinking we could go out. We haven't been anywhere together since your birthday. The little flinch in Kugure's face with the mention of his birthday made Inoka's heart ache. While they managed to talk things out after the unfortunate misunderstanding, the memory was apparently still unpleasant. He reached for Kugure's hand and gently caressed his knuckles with his tongue. Sorry, I didn't mean to remind you of that. But it's true. You've been working the whole time, and when we all finally have free time on the same day, we stay here. What do you think? He carefully watched the potential changes in Kugure's posture and expression, looking for signs of hesitation or anxiety. After all, there was more than just one reason they usually stayed at home instead of spending time outside. Of course, Inoka would never dream of blaming Kugure for getting anxious among people. He knew what they were getting into from the moment they asked Kugure to join their relationship. But this time, it seemed like even Kugure was sick of being cooped up at home. Inoka could swear he felt Cupid's arrow piercing his heart when Kugure gave him one of his lovely, soft smiles and nodded. I would love that. Do you have something in mind? Not really, but we can just roam around where the legs take us and see if something looks nice. He grinned. We can even send some pictures to Yuki to make him jealous. Isn't that a bit harsh? Nah, that's what he gets for leaving without us. To his immense joy, Kugure chuckled at that, though he would be much rather if he didn't have a habit of covering his mouth in those rare instances when he laughed. But knowing he was one of the very few people who could make Kugure smile for real was satisfactory enough for now. He brought Kugure's hand to his lips to leave a light kiss on his fingers, relishing the way Kugure's cheeks colored red. Joking aside, I think a walk could be a nice change of pace. It's supposed to be a bit cold tomorrow, but it shouldn't rain, so we should use the last bits of nice weather before winter, right? Kugure nodded. He then hesitated for a second before he turned his hand a bit to entwine their fingers together, his cheeks reddening even more, and Inoka could melt there and then. You are so cute when you try to return affection. Kugure stilled, his eyes darting between Inoka and their hands before settling on the table. Sorry. For what? That was a compliment. He sighed, becoming a bit more serious as he took Kuguri's hand into both of his. Don't apologize for trying. Definitely not when you are trying to show affection. You are doing your best and we are proud of you. Don't ever forget that, okay? Kuguri watched him with his eyes widened like a spooked rabbit, his whole body tensing before finally his shoulders relaxed again. Alright, I'll try. That's the spirit. Now, do you have something urgent to work on, or do I have you for myself? Well, not really urgent, but... Inoka was draped over his shoulders before he managed to finish, nuzzling into the crook of his neck like the cat Nekoma raised him to be. So? I still have to work on this. Later. But... Or move on the couch so I can hug you. I'll be the best pillow known to mankind, I promise. Kuguri sighed, but the way he leaned more into the contact told Inuoka he won this one. He wrapped his arms around Kuguri's waist and picked him up from both the chair and the floor, grinning when Kuguri squealed. Please warn me next time you do this. That would take away all the fun of seeing you surprised. Besides, you should already get used to it. I still don't understand how you can pick me up so effortlessly. Smiling, Inoka kissed his temple. Practice, darling. The day was indeed cold, but despite the weather forecast, the dark cloud hung low as an omen of rain. But in the end, it wasn't anything tragic. They had good clothes on, and in case it really started to rain, they could hide in one of the numerous shops and cafes they walked by. The important thing was that they were together. And yet, despite knowing he should feel happiness from spending time with his boyfriend, anytime he glanced at Kuguri walking a bit ahead of him, he only felt an ache. A hollow ache from deep within him he couldn't find the source for. As if something happened that he couldn't remember, but what left them walking several meters apart, even though they were out together. He wanted to speed up and catch up with Kuguri, ask what happened between them, but his legs refused to listen, keeping him at the same steady pace he had before. What's going on? Now? At least it seemed his call was working as Kuguri turned to him, the sorrow written in his eyes almost freezing Inoka in place. He opened his mouth to call again, to maybe ask Kuguri to wait for him so he could make things better again, when a sudden ruckus ahead caught his attention. Confused, he furrowed his brow. Despite the clearly hearable yelps and shouting, there was no one who could be making the noise, as the street was completely empty save the two of them. He turned to Kuguri again to call him back to his side, too weirded out to let him walk so far ahead, when a loud honk of a truck deafened him. Kuguri looked at him again, his eyes wide, and yet empty this time. And then a truck appeared from the mist right behind him. No! He could still hear the stomach-turning cracks following the crash when he opened his eyes. His chest heaving like billows, he stared into the dark, the sheets and his t-shirt stuck to him like a disgustingly damp second skin. The image of the bloody viscera left by the truck stayed firmly engraved into his memory, repeating over and over as if he needed to see it more than once. So? He flinched when the cool hand touched his arm, but then sprang up and threw his arms around Kuguri, squishing him to his chest. Oh, thank God! Thank God! So? You are okay. It was just a dream, right? Right? Panic rising in his chest, he squeezed tighter. Please tell me you are fine. This isn't a dream, is it? That one was. It had to. Oh, so let go a bit, please. Hurts. Hearing the tiny voice, he snapped out of the mist clouding his mind and immediately loosened his grip, ice-cold claws digging into his heart. Sorry. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, I swear. The same gentle hand covered his, halting the waterfall of apologies already halfway out of his mouth, and his vision hazed when his eyes finally got used to the dark, and he could see Kuguri sitting beside him on the bed, alive and well, even if a little startled. I'm fine. You just squeezed my arm badly. Biting his lip, Inoka pulled him back under his chin, this time taking care of not squeezing too hard. His heart slowly settled, same as his breathing, but the images stayed. I'm so sorry. I just needed to make sure you are okay. It was so vivid, I thought you really... He couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence, the words getting stuck in his throat when he recalled the scene. Looking back at it, the whole situation didn't make any sense, but the damage to his mind was already done. He ran his fingers through Kuguri's hair, clutching his night t-shirt in his fist, too afraid he might disappear if he let go, if only for a split second. Can I do something to help? Yuki always makes tea, right? I can make some, if you want. Sighing, Inoka shook his head and pulled him a bit closer, unable to bring himself to move. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just stay here, please. That's all I need. Okay, I will. Do you want to talk about it? No, it's gone now. You are all right. That's what matters. Kuguri hummed quietly, shifting a bit into a better position to snuggle after a moment of hesitation. His hand still rested uncertainly on Inuka's sides, but just feeling his boyfriend against him was enough for Inuka to finally calm down enough to think clearly. Everything was alright. Kuguri was fine, sitting nested in his arms, unharmed and okay. There was no tension between them. There was no track. Everything was fine. Letting out a relieved sigh, he kissed the top of Kuguri's head, staying nuzzled into his hair for a moment longer in hopes he could stop the pressure building behind his eyes. He never thought about the possibility of losing his boyfriends in such a violent way before, but now, even though it was just a nightmare, just imagining a similar thing happening for real terrified him. I'll make sure it won't happen. Ever. Should we go back to sleep? The only response he got was soft, even breathing. Despite the horror he just woke up from, he smiled, and kissing Kuguri's temple, he carefully laid it down with him still in his arms, pulling the blanket over them in the process. Hopefully, he wouldn't ruin his sleep again that night. Maybe we should stay home today after all. Kuguri paused mid-movement, blinking a few times in confusion. But why? I thought you were looking forward to going out. Yeah, but it looks like it's about to rain anyway, so we would get soaked on the way. It's not worth it. His heart ached seeing Kuguri's shoulders slump a bit with his words. But that was nothing compared to the dagger that stabbed him when he spotted Kuguri's expression, the guilt and fear, and realized what must have been going through his head at that moment. Did I do something? Inoka quickly pulled him into an embrace, mentally kicking himself for not formulating his thoughts better. Of course Kugure would think it was his fault. He should have known better already, especially after the last few months. It's not because of you, I promise. But you were so excited about it yesterday. What changed? Is it because I fell asleep when I should be comforting you? I'm sorry. I know I should. Pulling away a bit, Inoka cupped his face to make sure he registered his words properly, instead of spiraling down the overthinking toboggan. No, it's not your fault. You were exhausted yesterday. Of course you fell asleep. I'm not blaming you for that. I meant what I said. No hidden meaning, I swear. We can still call this a date. I just don't want us to get sick because of the weather. He wasn't sure how convincing he was since, in the end, he was lying. He just needed Kugure to stop blaming himself. No way in hell could he let his nightmare knock him down when he started to get better. Though, how better he was getting when something as simple as a change of plans could send him down the spiral was up for question. Damn it, we slacked off again on this. And here I thought the therapy was helping already. Despite his dedication to keep Kugure safe at all costs, he leaned in for a kiss before motioning towards the window. What do you say we bake some sweets together? Maybe watch a movie or two, and then see how the weather is in the afternoon. Is it a good idea to let me into the kitchen? I'm sure it's going to be fine. One can only have so much misfortune, right? And I'll be there with you the whole time. Kugure still didn't look too convinced, but then nodded and hesitantly leaned back into Inoka's embrace. Okay, sounds good to me. Inoka breathed a sigh of relief, glad that the crisis was averted, and he managed to keep Kugure away from any potential danger other than their kitchen for now. Perhaps he was being silly for believing the nightmare could be a warning against some actual danger, but he didn't intend to risk it. He couldn't lose Kugure. Not to death. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I have to think of some more Inoka-centered ideas and scenarios, because I know with the polish ships I'm usually focused on one person, usually the stray cat one. Analogy from the last time. But yeah, because that's like the most entertaining, I would say, to watch and to write for me, of course, because I always choose the one I love the most to torture. But yeah, I need to start thinking of more other people-centered ideas. With time, definitely. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.